Trying to make sure. It was kind of acting slow, so I hope it's okay. But I'm here and it's cold in the pressure. I brought a heater up here with me and I did not. So I have been studying in the cold and now I am about to do Facebook in the cold because it is cold in the prayer room. It wasn't cold in here yesterday, but today it is cold. So I'm thinking it was quite a bit windier today and the windows, probably the air is seeping through and more air is coming through at a more rapid rate than the little vent over here can produce the heat coming through. But no matter, it is chilly up here today. Ooh-wee. But once I get started, I usually start sweating right here. So if by the end of they're not sweating right here, that should let you know how cold it is, right? All right. We will get started in about 30 or more seconds. Give people a couple more minutes. I'm back being earlier, right? Because I had started drifting toward the later hours, and I don't want to do that. So I am back in this earlier time frame, liking it better, somewhere between after work and before chill mode, instead of after work, after dinner, after chill mode, then got to do this video before I go to bed, which is more likely for me to just go to bed. But okay, let's get started. We are doing Matthew 10. Matthew 10. We are going through the New Testament in a year. We are in Matthew's gospel. He is, and I don't think I've said this yet, but he is one of the 4 gospels in the Bible and one of the 3 synoptic gospels. Synoptic meaning same, and like synonym. You recognize S-Y-N, synonym. Synoptic meaning same. And Matthew, Mark, Luke are considered to be synoptic gospels because there is quite a bit of spoken about across the board in both of them. Trying to get video a little, so okay, I think that's a little better. But there's quite a bit of information that is the same in all of the gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John is totally different, and when we get to the book of John, I will let you know why it's so different, and why it talks about different things than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But they are known as the synoptic gospels. And Matthew opens up in chapter 10 with, remember I told you he writes sort of thematically, if you would, right? And so we had the teachings of Christ, then we sort of had the healings of Christ. Now he's talking to us specifically about instructions that he's giving to the disciples. And now this idea of disciples has been narrowed down from all the disciples to just these 12. And chapter 10 opens up with the 12 disciples that Jesus called. And we have, and I'll name them, Peter, Andrew, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, James and Thaddeus, and Simon and Judas. And so we know Peter, his name is also called Simon, but for the most part, Jesus calls him Peter after this, and he is just referred to in the list as Simon, and sometimes Jesus calls him Simon Peter, and says his name altogether. But he is definitely always first on the list. And so this list is the same across Matthew, Mark, Luke, and it's found in Acts. And in this list, it is always the same order. Peter is always first, Judas is always last, and they're always listed in the same order. So it's very interesting here that these are listed. When you look at this list, one thing that stands out about all the names, probably the most similar thing, is that none of these come from like rich backgrounds. They are not people who are born with silver spoons in their mouths, right? These were just regular people, right? And Jesus just sort of were using the regular people, fishermen, tax collectors, right? Just regular people doing regular jobs. He called them, right? Another thing, and if we went through the lives of all of these, even historically, we would see that Jesus called them from doing something, right? Jesus didn't call nobody that wasn't doing anything, right? So Jesus called them from doing something to follow him. And then a lot of people say, well, what was the purpose of Judas? Like Jesus called him, didn't Jesus know that he was going to betray him? Why would he make one of his disciples, right? But the Spirit of God, yes, would know that Judas was going to betray him. However, Jesus knew his plight from the beginning. And so he knew that the Father's will had to be done. And so, hey, keep your enemies close, right? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So he kept Judas with him as one of the 12. Then the rest of this chapter really is about how he sent the 12 out and what they were supposed to do while they were out, right? And so he starts off in verse 5 telling them who they are to go to. And he wants it to be specifically known, I'm sending you to your brothers, basically, right? This isn't the time where we go to the Gentiles. This isn't the time where we go to the nations, right? But right now you're going to be prophesying or bringing healing or preaching to the lost sheep of Israel. That's what he calls them in verse 6. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. And then he says, verse 7, as you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Sorry about that, guys. Freely you have received, so freely give. And so Jesus is giving them an assignment. He doesn't just call you to sit, right? So he calls people who are working, expecting that when they come, they will work, right? And so he's telling them, look, I have empowered you. Like who he calls, he's going to equip. He's going to give you exactly what you need, exactly what your purpose is, exactly what your calling is. And he's saying, look, I have called you to do all these things. You need to go heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Basically, he's sending them out to do exactly the things that he's already been doing, right? So basically what you've seen me do, I am now sending you out to go and do it. And he tells them, you've received these things freely, and you've seen me give them freely. Freely you have received, freely you give, right? And so I haven't charged anybody. I didn't charge you. I don't want you out there charging people for the gifts. And a lot of people have taken this to mean that you're not supposed to take care of the preacher, right? Because people look for reasons why they don't have to take care of the preacher. Seriously, they do. But that's not what that means. Jesus basically said, don't charge for the gifts that I'm giving you. There's no price you can put on it, right? But then in the next sentence, he basically tells them, but go out there with nothing, right? So in one hand, he's saying, freely you've been given, freely you shall receive, right? So it was free to you. So give it freely, right? So don't expect to be paid for your gifts. Don't expect to be paid for your gifts. I'm going to say one more time. Don't expect to be paid for your gifts. Freely you were given that gift. Why are you charging people for prophecies? Freely you were given that gift. Why are you charging people for healings? Freely you were given that gift. Freely you received it. Freely you ought to give it, right? So we're not supposed to be charging people for the gifts that God has given us, right? What I look like, somebody give me a gift for my birthday and then I go sell it, right? The person that gave me that gift is going to be mighty mad, right? Mighty, mighty mad. Give me money for what was given to me freely. Very upset that person would be, right? How much more upset do you think God is? But don't take that as you're not supposed to take care of the preacher, right? Or you're not supposed to take care of. The Bible then says, and if you look down in verse 9, it tells them, but when you go without anything, right? Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts, no bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, right? For the work keep. Jesus is saying, look, don't take anything with you. Your work is worth somebody at least taking care of your needs. And this kind of goes along with what he told the priests back in the Old Testament, right? Remember, the priests did not have an inheritance. They had no inheritance of their own. God told them, I'm your inheritance, right? He told them, don't plant, don't plow, don't do any of that, right? I'm your inheritance. The same thing. Don't take anything with you. Go out there and do what I've told you to do, and fully expect that the people who you are blessing will take care of your needs. Ooh, I'm gonna say it again. Fully expect that the people you are blessing will take care of your needs. Fully expected that they're going to take care of you, right? He says, verse 11, whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave.